Welcome to a special Thanksgiving week episode of BV Weekly. I'm Dave, I'm here with Andrew, and today we're going to highlight 10 albums you need to hear before you make your year-end list. But first, I just caught the end of a tour from one of the most talked about bands of the year.
So as you promised you would on last week's episode, you and Amanda saw Geese at Brooklyn Paramount.
Yes. Honestly, so good.
I'm very jealous I wasn't there. I just had too much other stuff going on in my life, but I mean, this was definitely one of the shows I was super hoping to be at.
Yeah, so I looked it up. Did you know it was 4 years ago that we all went to see Geese at Brooklyn Made that first time?
Yeah, I mean, that was when the 2021 album came out, so I feel like I assumed it was. But yeah, it was like right one of the first shows after COVID lockdown, I believe.
Yeah, so it's crazy to me to think how much time has passed. I mean, between these shows, I do think I never saw Geese in between. It was like that first time in 2021 and now again in 2025. In fact, it was like more than 4 years. I think like 4 years and a month apart. But just to give some history there, this was late 2021. We're hearing about this band who is supposed to be the next Strokes at a local New York City band. They weren't still in high school, but they're young.
They were, I think, like 18 or 19.
Okay, so
they
practically still in
they may as well have been,
school.
yeah.
And
just out of it.
I think by this point, NME, for instance, was already calling them the next Strokes or something, and they were signed to Partisan Records, a label we love for a long time. So, of course, we're paying attention. We're like, I guess we need to check out this band. And the perfect opportunity came when this sort of small venue in Brooklyn was opening called Brooklyn Made. And they had like a kind of opening night preview party where they also booked Geese. So it's like, oh, good. We get to see the venue and Geese. And we all went there. And let's just say we were not fans. So we left that show thinking, to be nice, Geese is not for us. It just felt like watching a band trying to be the Strokes, literally. And that's my memory of it. And so we've spent the last 4 years, okay, maybe let's say 3 years, because when did the new album come out? Like until the new album came out, kind of not caring that much about Geese at Brooklyn.
Or I mean, until Cameron Winter's solo album came out.
So until the beginning of this year, 2025, we kind of collectively, BrooklynVegan didn't care that much about Geese. And then the beginning of the year, we started to hear about the Cameron Winter solo album. And it was like, whoa, people are loving this. And we started to listen to it. And we're like, okay, this is actually good. This is something. This is weird. This isn't the band we remember. We still weren't like too into the last album. Anyway, then the new album came out. You know this. We love it. We're fans. I finally got to see them again. This was the second night at Brooklyn Paramount, second of two. These shows were, of course, very sold out, and they were very packed, and tickets were going on StubHub for like $1 million. Actually, we were saying last week even, I think, how much the tickets were going for weeks. You couldn't get one cheaper than $300.
In like every city.
That's true, every city too. But then, just for some perspective, Cat's Eye played 2 shows in New York the same weekend, and apparently those were going for much, much, much more, even in bigger venues. But still, for an indie rock band.
No, I mean, it's totally insane for an indie rock band to have like $300 tickets on StubHub at like every city of their tour just months after what is, I think we can safely call their breakthrough album just came out. Like it's just, it's not mainstream pop numbers, but it's crazy numbers for indie rock.
Yeah. So anyway, the show was amazing, actually. There were 2 openers who, kind of complimentary music. People were into it. It was fine. It got really full right before Geese, like to the back. I was just at the Hot Mulligan show at the same venue, which was also really, really packed. And I think this was maybe even more packed. And somehow they were both sold out. Anyway, Geese came on and just
This show had a longer guest list.
Yeah. Geese came on and just instantly felt I I almost got emotional. It felt so next level. First of all, the crowd, the loud cheering of the crowd when Geese took the stage. I don't know if I can't remember the last time I heard that level of noise in a club from people screaming. So already, it's like the Beatles arriving at City.
Not to overhype them or anything.
And yeah, so, and I was kind of in the back, which is good for that venue because it's like on a slope and it sounds good anywhere in there. And I kind of strategically positioned in the back near the soundboard. I didn't really feel like I needed to be up front for this one. But up front, as Amanda also mentioned, she was in the photo pit. It was like total mania, the people, the excitement. And
she said it was like primarily like early mid 20 somethings up front, which I feel like is kind of a crucial point because it's like clearly Geese is such a thing for the next generation, I think.
Yeah. And they were great. I mean, I felt like I was witnessing a future arena band, and I would say the first half of the show really felt like that to me. I don't know. I think I maybe got more tired in the second half, but the first half I was just like, wow, I know I'm like overhyping this like crazy, but it was just like, wow, this is like one of the greatest rock bands right now. And I love the album. So hearing those songs live, and I think they maybe played the whole album. 11 of the 15 songs they played were from Getting Killed. So it's pretty much like all of it, I think. And it was amazing. About the second half, I think I came back down to earth a little more, and it just felt like a really, really exciting band in club.
Well, I think Amanda mentioned that they open with a lot of new stuff, play the older stuff in the middle, and close with new stuff.
Right.
So maybe the older stuff coincided with coming back down to earth.
Yeah.
Because I still think we agree that the new record is a massive step up.
Yeah,
from
but you know what?
Yeah.
Really, they played, the rest of the songs were from 3D, I guess. Was it an EP that followed 3D, 4D? But so it was like one song from the EP, the rest from 3D. Hearing the songs in the context of the show, I appreciated them and I did like them. One sounded a lot like Arctic Monkeys. I also, from the older songs, really started to understand the accusations of them becoming a jam band on the last album, but also because I kept thinking, is this band going to be playing arenas? And I feel like hearing the older songs too, it really showed like the breadth of their material. Whereas like 1 minute they're kind of this jammy rock band, 1 minute they're the Strokes, 1 minute they're Bob Dylan. And it felt like, yeah, if you're going to be this long lasting arena rock band, the fact that you can do all of those things also, it fit, and obviously a lot of the biggest bands that do play arenas are all these different genres. So
yeah, I mean, I think like something I know I said on the first time we kind of had like a Geese episode was like, I think one of the reasons that you kind of can't just accuse them of being like the next hype band right now is like they're already on their third album. They've already proven to transcend that. Like, to bring up Arctic Monkeys, like Arctic Monkeys' third album was Humbug, which to me is the album that they kind of proved that they're not their legacy will not be buzz band. It will be like real band, career band. And I feel like Geese on their third album, like this album is the one that is like, we're a career band. So I think, yeah, like they already have such a breadth of material, to your point. And then also, I mean, I think if anybody is still kind of like, okay, this band is overhyped, like I do think, again, I didn't go to the show, but just from talking to you and Amanda and hearing what you're saying now, like I think the big difference between this show and all the former buzz bands that we now look back on as like, oh, like they were clearly overhyped by press and stuff is like, again, you have a massive packed venue, tickets on StubHub going exponentially over face, young people screaming, like they already have real fans. Like this isn't being pushed as the next big thing by press. And then you go to the show and it's just a bunch of industry people with their arms folded, like, impress me. Like we've all been to those shows, right, where the next big thing is playing, and then it's just like a bunch of people in the crowd who are like kind of cynically like, let's see it.
Yeah,
Like this was just, even if this record got terrible reviews, there'd be kids in the audience screaming and losing their minds, and like they've already beat out the buzz bands. Like they're not a buzz band.
for sure. And they were naming places where people were from. In New York, they said New Jersey. A lot of loud screams for New Jersey. So for those that don't know, that means these people commuted in an hour, 2 hours to get to this show. Somebody said they were there from Montreal.
Well, I know that there was at least one fan in the audience from Queens, Mr. Met.
Oh, right. I don't know if Mr. Met was in the audience, but
just outside the show,
and
maybe
definitely backstage. I don't know. I don't know what the.
So you didn't see Mr. Met walking around?
Yeah. Speaking of the Beatles, like, was this seat? No, I did not see him. Was this promo for an upcoming Citi Field show? That seems insane. They're definitely not ready.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But
I mean, Geese are big Mets fans, and I thought of it because you were talking about shouting out places in New York. Like, I do feel like they are kind of these like true New Yorker types, or at least leaning into being that. Like, you know, I don't want to get criticized if someone's going to tell me it's an actor. I don't know. But like,
yeah, so whatever the Mr. Met thing, it was definitely coordinated. There was a lot of social media coverage. Mr. Met's official Mets Instagram account was collabed with like Live Nation's Instagram account, possibly with Geese's Instagram account. You know, footage of Mr. Met arriving and talking to people in line and then hanging backstage with the band. So I don't know, it was promo for the Mets of some sort.
Well, I did see Orville Peck sing at a Met game, so you know, not the first, I guess, indie rock thing. I don't know, maybe Cameron Winter will throw the first pitch or sing the national anthem or something.
Cameron Winter national anthem would be interesting for sure.
It would be. I think he would weird out a lot of people,
yes.
And that would probably only make the band bigger. So
yeah. So the other two more comments about the show. About people being real fans. People were actually also singing along to the stuff from the last album. So I thought that was kind of notable because I, of course, was not one of the people who could sing along with those songs, but people knew them. And two, I just wanted to say they closed with Trinidad, which is, of course, album highlight, or at the beginning of the album when he's screaming, "There's a bomb in my car." I don't know if it was like an extended version in the end, but it was definitely in the exciting encore where they play that one. And that one really, to me, felt like Geese, who you would think like Geese, the cool New York City club band, because, you know, it was like loud and screamy and the mosh pit was just going crazy. So that one, again, like I said, I was back down to earth. I was out of the arena at this point. And that one really felt made for the club, for what it's worth. I'm sure it would translate too as they got bigger. But
yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I thought that was interesting how it was like, yeah, they have this kind of like punky club show vibe with that song. And this, like, I mean, I remember just the videos of that big outdoor show too, with the screaming and people like at the barrier that separated the band from the crowd, because it was all just on the street, just like, you know, writhing, like they're just bodies everywhere. And it's like, oh yeah, like Geese also have that, which is to your point about their range. You know, I feel like you don't always get that either from these kind of like buzzy hype indie industry machine bands.
Totally.
I feel like we can safely say that Geese is going to be near the top of most major year-end lists that we see this year. But as Dave said at the beginning of the episode, considering this is a shorter news week, it's Thanksgiving. Also, the next time we speak, it'll be December. Year-end list season is about to be in full swing. I bet by the next time we do an episode, there's going to be a lot of major year-end lists out already. So we thought we would take the opportunity to highlight some records that we want to put on your radar as you're making your own year-end list.
The way we're going to do this is we're going to list 5 albums each. We did not look at each other's lists in advance, so I don't know what Andrew is about to say. He doesn't know what I'm about to say. We're not calling this a top 5. This is definitely not our top 5 albums of the year. And we're not really calling it honorable mentions to our list either, because they may be on our list. We're not necessarily calling them underrated, but maybe underrated is a little bit of what motivated us to want to highlight them. So it's just 5 albums we want to give a little more attention that came out this year, 2025. And Andrew, why don't you start with your first pick?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, yeah, like I would say some of these are 100% going to make my list. Some I'm maybe still thinking about it. Either way, I think that they are really good albums that were talked about a little bit less than Geese and Wednesday and, Turnstile and FKA Twigs and Deftones and Clips and all those kind of records that we know we're going to see on a lot of lists. So yeah, I just hope that whenever I go to make my list, I'm often also catching up on things because you try as hard as you try, but you still miss stuff. So, I often find an album I love as I'm just kind of catching up on what I may have missed this year. And hopefully you find something you love from these and maybe it makes your list. So I'll start with one that I definitely know is making my year-end list, and it's System by Prune, Prewn. I do think Prune has got to be one of the most underrated indie rock bands out there right now. I mean, they kind of remind me of the eras of Hopalong and Mitski right before those artists signed to bigger labels and started to really get out there. Also just because the singer of Prune has just an otherworldly voice, as both Mitski and Francis from Hopalong do. And it's kind of in the somewhat similar genre. So there's other reasons, but it just feels like I remember going to see Hopalong and Mitski shows as the opener, with the venue is mostly empty, but there's a bunch of people up front who are just super obsessed, and that okay, not enough people know this artist yet, but everybody who does know them is knows it's really something special. And I feel that way with Prune. I have seen this album is their second. It seems like it's getting a little more hype than their first, which we also loved. It made the Brooklyn Vegan year-end list that year in 2023. But I'm seeing a little more talk about this one, and I'm getting that same sense of everybody who hears it is blown away. So I just think if you it's kind of a little bit freak folkish, but there's also this kind of DIY kind of grungy thing in there. I remember I think I called their first album Dinosaur Jr. meets Karen Dalton. So it's kind of in that similar realm, but also different than the debut. It's definitely new stuff in there. So I think if any of this sounds up your alley, I could really see this record blowing you away if it hasn't blown you away already. What do you got, Dave? Go ahead.
I love Prune as well. And yeah, I think of Prune as also really underrated and really small, which is why I was super surprised when I recently pulled up Prune on Spotify and noticed that their streaming numbers are huge all of a sudden. Not huge, but
bigger than you'd expect.
300,000 monthly or something. And the especially on one track, but also on a lot of tracks on the new album, have a lot of streams. This was very far from what I expected to find. We talked about this off air and theorized that maybe they're on a playlist, but still playlist.
Yeah, because they have their ratio of followers to monthly listeners is the followers are a lot lower. So usually that tells
but
you
it's
that
still
it's still impressive that I don't follow tons of artists that I love on Spotify. So if people are listening, they're listening.
Yeah. And it's just weird. I expected it way, there's much higher streaming numbers for Prune than a lot of the albums that will end up on our year-end list, to put it into that perspective as well. So,
and I think it speaks to that point of people who hear it are liking it. Cause it seems like they're getting these good playlist looks this time around. They didn't on the debut. And, again, I don't know exactly how this stuff all works with Spotify numbers and playlists and all that stuff. I'm not really a big listener of curated playlists. I like curating my own playlists and listening to those, but I don't tend to check out the new indie rock, whatever type things. No disrespect, just saying it's not what I do. But yeah, I feel like it does speak to people who are hearing this are oh, this is something really stands out to me. So
I think so too.
I kind of hope that we're on the cusp of, Prune really getting their flowers,
Yeah.
maybe on LP3, maybe getting a big tour next year. I don't even know that like Prune has done like a big tour yet, so that might be part of it too. But
Yeah, it made me search to see if there was like a TikTok thing, but there isn't. But yeah, I don't. And I didn't even mean, I still think Prune is extremely underrated. I don't know how to explain the bigger streaming yet, but I do think it's a good sign.
yeah.
All right.
So what do you got for us?
My first pick is Caliphone's album, The Villager's Companion. It came out all the way back in February and follows Caliphone's 2023 album named Just the Villager. So this, quote, companion were songs that were recorded at the very same time. For those not familiar, Caliphone is LA-based, Chicago-born indie rock musician Tim Rutilli, I forget how you pronounce his name, who has been releasing an experimental mix of folk, blues, and alt country since the late 90s as Caliphone, ever since the breakup of his similar sub-pop signed band Red Red Meat. In the early 2000s, Caliphone, along with fellow post-rock leaning bands like Tortoise, who also, by the way, have an unexpected new album this year, and The Sea and the Cake, were label mates at Chicago indie label Thrill Jockey. I've always been a fan of Caliphone. Just for some context, also, if you don't know about them, like Pitchfork gave Caliphone's debut AP a 9.2 in 1999. So this was like an important indie band. And that continued through the 2000s. Their sixth album, Roots and Crowns, which was a big one for me at the time, was named Best New Music in 2006. I don't think they had Best New Music in 1999 when they gave out a 9.2. And another fun fact, 3 years after that, in 2009, they put out an album on Dead Oceans, which, of course, is a label that, speaking of Mitski again, went on to become famous for releases by artists like Mitski, Phoebe Bridgers, Japanese Breakfast, Wednesday, the new Wednesday album. Caliphone's new album is not on Dead Oceans, but Caliphone is still here. Definitely not getting the type of attention anymore that they used to get. For instance, definitely not getting the attention that like the new Jeff Tweedy solo album automatically gets, or that many of the young indie country artists having a moment right now are getting. And yeah, so I really loved this album this year. It really brought me back into like a Caliphone phase. I went to see Caliphone at Baby's All Right earlier this year, touring behind this album, which was a trip. I hadn't seen him forever. And I'll just finish this one by describing the album in the way Tim does himself on the album's official Bandcamp page. The album features reverb-drenched piano chords, electronic whirs, and layers of experimental noise, guided by Tim's abstract, fragmented lyrics, both strange and familiar, delivered through his warm, well-worn vocals. It creates an experience as evocative as it is haunting. Crackles of static, feedback loops, and fleeting signals bloom into meditative moments, with each sound given space to breathe, unravel, and shimmer in slow decay. So yeah, Caliphone.
Very nice. Yeah, and I think as you kind of touched on, like, there's definitely an argument to be made that like Caliphone's a little bit of a precursor to some of the MJ Lenderman Wednesday type stuff. So I think good time to check them out if you haven't, if you've been as immersed in that kind of stuff as I know I have and you have. And yeah. Another record for me that I love a lot and I just feel like deserves another push. It came out early in the year. I don't think the band's quite as big as they deserve to be. I hope to see them on as many lists as possible, but we'll find out. And that is Great Grandpa with their new record, Patience Moonbeam. I think similar to Prune, I just think this is like next level indie rock and just deserves to get talked about up there with the indie rock bands that we know we are going to see in the top 10s and 20s of every list. It just has like so much to it. There's like moments that are kind of folky, moments that are kind of like Radiohead. It's got one of my favorite choruses of the year, one of the catchiest choruses that gets stuck in my head. And they use that chorus on 2 songs on the album. So they must have known how catchy it was. And yeah, I don't know. It's like some parts of it fit with that country leaning indie that's been, what we talked about a lot this year, has been pretty dominant this year. Again, there's other parts that lean a little more electronic. There's some cool vocoder stuff on the album. I just feel like it's a lot there. It's their first for Run for Cover. It was their first in, I think, 5 or 6 years. They really, I believe, spent the whole time, that whole gap, working on it. I mean, part of that was COVID, and I think there might have been like a little bit of a hiatus there, but it really does feel like a lot of time and care went into this record. I think it's a really intricate, like, indie art rock album, and I came back to it a lot. And yeah, it just deserves as many pushes as it can get.
All right, cool. I need to spend a little more time with that one. And I'm going to switch things up now for my second pick and go a little heavier than we've been so far. I just want to talk a second about like hardcore in general right now. It does feel like the turnstile effect is a bit behind us, meaning like the hardcore moment is kind of past a little bit, that everyone's talking about for a few years. I mean, I still do think certain bands and the scene in general are still benefiting from the post Glow On boom, and select bands like Speed and Drain are still crushing and rising, and Turnstile themselves are now a festival headliner, and their new album is great still and getting a lot of attention. But still, the excitement in
5 Grammy nominations.
But they're a little bit alone in that, and the attention is still not there. Some examples: does the average person anymore care about who is playing the next FYA fest in Florida? That's like such a hardcore fest. It felt like even casual fans were suddenly caring about FYA. 2 2026 Danny Wimmerfest lineups have come out already, and just last year even, it felt like they had full stages crammed with buzzy hardcore and adjacent bands being like kind of pushed on these festivals to meet the moment. There's like none of that now, except Turnstile actually is on one of them. So all that is to say, I wanted to give a little more shine on a hardcore record that came out this year that I really love, and that's Wrong Side of Heaven by End It, which is out now on Flat Spot Records. The End It, the Baltimore hardcore band, who they did arrive at the right time with a series of much-loved DPs that made them one of the most loved up-and-coming hardcore bands of the past few years. And then, I don't know, they maybe waited a bit too long to release the long-promised full-length follow-up, which finally arrived in August. And I don't mean they waited too long as a criticism. I just mean it's probably arguably getting a little less attention than it deserves due to the reasons I just listed. Less attention than it would have gotten a year ago. I mean, look, shouldn't End It soon after this album be on those Danny Wimmerfest? Not that I know if maybe they don't want to play a Danny Wimmerfest, but anyway, I saw End It live like a million times over the past few years, often awkwardly at like 7 p.m. on big hardcore bills. But 2 of the times I saw them, including at the recent Speed show in the roller rink that we talked about, End It played around midnight. And that was one of the 2 times where I really witnessed this band feel like a true headliner, putting on an amazing show, commanding a large room of people going crazy. I think their music is great, but also it's the personality and voice of Akil Godsey that really brings End It over the top for me. The new album is 15 songs in 23 minutes, which we're still calling that a full length. And it's just a roller coaster ride, a fast hardcore melody, some crossover thrash. And a huge highlight of the album for me is the clean sung cover of Maximum Penalty's Could You Love Me, which comes second to last on the album. And it just feels like the album is constantly building to that. Having seen Akil do random covers of non-hardcore songs at live shows, which always show off his amazing singing voice, it was no surprise to me that he had this in him. And you could just feel his personality, his amazing personality that I also see on Instagram. If you should follow his personal account, and which you hear in the stage banter at the show, his amazing and on podcasts, his amazing personalities comes through in that song and in the whole album. And it just, that helps make this one of my favorite hardcore albums of the year.
I like the End It album a lot too, but I think I have to a little bit counter you on the stuff you're saying about the hardcore scene, because I know what you mean, but I also think I mean, to call it the turnstile effect, like in particular, like citing that band as sort of the reason, like the rising tide that is hopefully lifting ships. I mean, I think one of the reasons Speed is having their continued moment too is like they're fresh off a Turnstile tour. We heard a lot of people this year say like, "Oh, I saw my first Speed show this year because I saw the Turnstile tour." So Turnstile are not only like a rising tide that is indirectly lifting ships based on their fame, but they're continuing to use their platform to bring, you know, the bands on tour that deserve it. They had ended opening their Never Enough release show in Brooklyn. Granted, I think ended were like first of 5, so that was kind of a tougher slot for them. But I don't know. I think, and I you know, I think there are still a lot of bands with connections to the hardcore scene that are continuing to rise, continuing to have moments. It's not. I think that maybe people thought with that Glow On would be like a Nevermind kind of thing where you really started to see a big, just like feeding frenzy for this stuff. And we haven't seen, it didn't become as big as some people thought it might. But I mean, Turnstile are bigger than ever. The new album is helping them reach heights that Glow On didn't reach. And I think there's still a lot of bands in the scene that are getting a lot of eyes on them and continuing to rise. So I don't know. I see it a little bit differently, but I respect your take.
What's your next pick?
Next pick for me is Esther Rose's album Want. Again, we talk a lot about the indie country thing on this show. It's definitely one of the dominant trends of the year. It's definitely a trend that is going to result in a lot of albums on a lot of year-end lists, including our own, like Wednesday, Greg Freeman, Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band, Flory. I think we're going to see those on a lot of lists. And if you are into those records and don't have Esther Rose's Want, well, it doesn't have to be on your list, but if you haven't heard the record, it's kind of the inverse of those things where she's a little bit, they're kind of from the indie rock world embracing country. She's kind of from the country world embracing indie rock. And I think ends up in a really similar place. And the album is really not, it's pretty much in the same ballpark as all that stuff. It's just kind of like it's grouped with a different scene, I guess. And, to me, it's always interesting to break down those barriers between like the perception of where something is grouped, what scene they're in, and just look more at the similarities in the music. So I think highly recommend this one for fans of that kind of stuff.
All right, let's keep the country going then. Actually, I don't know if I was going to say this one next, but I don't know if you'd call this one indie country, maybe just full-on country. My next pick is Margot Price's Hard-Headed Woman. I was a big fan of Margot's debut record, Midwest Farmer's Daughter, which came out on Jack White's Third Man Records. It was released in March 2016, the same month we booked her on a Brooklyn Vegan South by Southwest show on the inside stage at Cheer Up Charlie's that I was front row for. And that was a performance that just cemented Margot in that moment as one of my favorite new country artists. And in that same group of, quote, cool country that included Sturgill Simpson and Jason Isbell, who we also loved at the time, it felt like she was just about to blow up huge right at that moment too, which sort of happened. She played SNL like 3 weeks later. It also sort of didn't happen. I think that was at least in part due to a less exciting follow-up record. And I think we've continued to be a fan of Margot, and she's always continued to seem cool. But I never really felt the same about her music until this year's Hard-Headed Woman, which has brought me right back to those 2016 feelings. This record is also one of the first nominees in the new traditional country Grammy category that we talked about on the Grammys episode, which was just announced. It's also her first time being nominated for a Grammy since a Best New Artist nomination in 2019. So I feel like it's not just me, if we're going to take the Grammy seriously for a second. This new album is just a constant good time, with a major highlight being a duet with Tyler Childers, whose unmistakable voice just feels like such a treat to hear during an already great time, and who, in the time since Margot's first album came out, is another country artist who joined that Sturgill Isbell Cool Club, but who also, meanwhile, has risen to megastar levels. I think he's bigger than all of them. And he also has a new album out this year, which is great. I love it. And so it's a great pairing to have like this new Margot album and a Tyler album with Tyler on both in the same year. And so that's my pick, Margot Price.
Nice. I like that record too. And I think, again, if we're going to take the Grammys seriously, I think it is. She had her last couple, she had kind of gone a little bit more in like the kind of Casey Musgraves, like country-ish pop music. And then this one is kind of back to traditional country, probably the most since her first or second album. So
yeah, I actually read that she replaced her entire band to make this because she knew she wanted to go back to this classic country sound, and the new band just wasn't cutting it. I don't know the real story, but yeah, so she brought in people who could better kind of capture that for her.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a good record. I like it a lot too. So my next pick is actually an album that I don't know if it's going to make a list because I only really just heard it. But like I kind of said earlier, this time of year, I like to catch up on stuff that I missed. And so I've been doing that. And this one caught my eye and ear as I was kind of just playing some catch up. So I think I'm gonna give it a push for anyone else who might have missed it. And that's the debut album from the UK band University. The album's called McCartney, It'll Be Okay. I guess they're like kind of an emo band, but they're also very noisy. There's definitely it's like noise rock, math rock, some Midwest emo, but again, they are from the UK, and there's definitely some across the pond vibes, like probably a little Los Campesinos in there, a little bit of like post rock, but not really in that sort of sweeping like Explosions in the Sky way, more and like a little bit more subtle than that. But yeah, it's just like a very, very cool record. I mean, I listen. I think if any regular listeners of the podcast probably know that I listen to a lot of emo, and this one stands out. It doesn't really sound like many of the other emo records I've heard this year, and part of that may be their location. I mean, a lot of emo can be very American centric, although of course it is very much an international genre, very big in Japan, but. Yeah, again, they have kind of that UK twist. It's mathy, it's noisy, it's exciting. I think it would be good for people who maybe don't listen to emo too. I mean, it again, like there's like a Los Campesinos thing, just kind of like explosive, loud, like melodic music. Yeah, I don't know, it's really fun, and I'm still getting into it. It's really been blowing me away. So, yeah, University.
All right, I got to check that one out still. All right, let's switch genres again. It's been another great year for Arm & Hammer related backwoods released hip hop, including most notably Billy Wood's album Gollywog, and the even newer Arm & Hammer and Alchemist album Mercy, plus the Prem Rock album. But I want to focus on one that really I've been loving a lot this year, and that is Preservation and Gabe Nandez's Sortilege. I don't know.
It's a French word.
French word, sortilege.
I definitely don't come to me for French pronunciation.
After first linking up when Gabe got a feature on a track that also had Boldy James on it on Billy Wood's Preservation produced 2022 album Aethiopes. Did I get that one right?
I actually don't know.
Which is one of Wood's most loved albums. Gabe Nandez and Preservation realized they worked really well together and set out to make a full album that Gabe, who is from New York City and Montreal, I think, traveled to New Orleans to make with Preservation. And here it is. That's like 3 years after that feature on the Billy Wood's album. Gabe, though, has been around for a while. This is his 9th album in over 10 years, but it's his first for Billy Wood's label Backwoods. So he's getting a lot more attention from this one, and that includes from me, because I never really listened to him before, but I've had this album in constant rotation since it came out in August. And actually, to quote your review, Andrew, Preservation is a master of eerie, slowed down boom bap, and Gabe brings a knack for gripping, detailed bars that fit Prez's production perfectly. Just 4 tracks have features, one of which is with all of Arm & Hammer, another is with just Woods. The album title, which, like you said, is French, means a magical spell or witchcraft, and it's a reference to the duo's shared francophone ancestry. Preservation is half French, Gabe is half Malian, and the songs, one of which is rapped in French, are seeped in that tradition of underground New York rap at its darkest and most somber. Thank you for giving me some words there, Andrew. I love this album.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, the backwoods thing gives it a push, and I just think Preservation being the sole producer gives him a push too. I mean, I love this stuff Preservation does. Like you said, he's done a whole Billy Woods album. He's done a lot with K.A., who rest in peace. Yeah,
Right.
he's an amazing producer.
He was the Austin-based tour DJ.
Yeah, like I like that there's been a lot of these single producer rap records lately. I mean, you mentioned Arm & Hammer and The Alchemist. And I think a lot of times, you know, a great producer will make me kind of like perk up even if I'm less familiar with the rapper. And that's what happened for this one, because I knew Gabe a little bit. Like you said, he was on the Billy Woods record. I didn't know him that well. But doing a record with Preservation caught my attention, and it delivers.
Very much.
So my fifth one's also a rap album. It is Overcast's new album, While the Iron is Hot. Overcast spells his name Overkast. And I've been listening to Overcast for a few years. He's been kind of like, he runs in a similar, I think he might have like done something with Earl Sweatshirt early on which caught my attention. But he's kind of been progressing from that sort of hazy abstract rap realm that Earl and Mike were sort of like both popularizing in the late 2010s and continue to do. And he's kind of gotten a little bit less abstract over the years. This record, the production is really rich and lush. There's like some jazzy stuff on there. As a rapper, I feel like he just sounds like bolder, more confident. It's definitely one of the rap albums this year that really sticks out to me. I think, as with a lot of styles of music, you know, like rap, it has its kind of clear subgenres. I feel like sometimes you kind of just get these albums that fall into, like, I don't want to say they're interchangeable, but it's like you kind of get your boom bap revival records, and you get your like your hazy abstract rap records, and you get like, you know, your rage rap and your auto-tune trap. And it just doesn't really kind of fit any of those kind of like trends or subgenres that, like, it just sort of stands on its own. So it sticks out to me. And I think it's a, you know, if you're looking for maybe that one rap album that passed you by this year, this could be it.
I think this one passed me by so far. Although I'm not sure if you were trying to tell me I wouldn't like it.
No, I don't think you wouldn't like it.
Kidding. You were like, some records are boom bap, some are the hazy, and some are ones Dave won't like. No, just kidding. All right.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I do want to check that out.
So what's your last pick?
All right. Well, I realized I actually accidentally did 6, so I'm going to throw a dart at which one. But before I go into my last pick, I also want to say, right after this, we are going to each list 5 honorable mentions, which are kind of just other things that maybe aren't like even albums. They're music, EPs, whatever. So, all right, here's my 5th. I'm going to go with Greet Death, Die in Love. I wasn't going to talk about this one again because I brought it up on so many episodes already, but it still feels underrated. Because I think I hyped it up in my mind as like it was going to be a bigger deal than maybe it is. So here's another shout out for the great Greet Death album, which came out on Death Wish in June. It's a mix of like indie rock pop and shoegaze dream pop. Dreamy, is a great way to describe the vocals of Logan and Harper. Part of this album consistently reminds me of Grizzly Bear. And as I said, after seeing them open for Nation of Language earlier this year, their very epic live show often had me thinking about Sonic Youth while watching. In the press materials, they actually said that Paul McCartney was an influence. And I just want to finish it by reading a bit from your review, which gives some good context. After years of singing about death, depression, and other downer topics, Greet Death decided to write an album of love songs. But before you wonder if they've gone full Love Me Do, Paul McCartney reference, this new album is not exactly chipper. It is, after all, called Die in Love. Part of that has to do with co-singer-songwriters Logan and Harper both losing loved ones in the lead up to this album. And while Die in Love does spend time processing grief, It's generally void of the nihilism that defined their earlier work. As Logan told Eli Ennis in an interview for Stereogum, it's supposed to be uplifting. I'm sure people are going to misinterpret that and say that it's another sad record, but it feels different to me. Anyway, I was already a fan of their previous releases. I was highly anticipating this one, and it definitely delivered.
Well, this is the one on your list that almost could have been on my list too, but I did think, I was like, nah, we've hyped it enough. so I hear you on, yeah, like, but no, but I also, like, I was on the fence. Like, it should be talked about more. And yeah, I mean, everything you said, obviously I agree, because some of those things were me, but, yeah, it's like one of the best indie rock albums of the year. And I really like how, like, especially like Harper really has these more pop songs on this one, like Country Girl being the biggest one, but also I don't have the track titles in front of me, but it's like Happiness something. But then like they also have like Logan, I think kind of does more like the downer shoegaze thing. So I think it's, as a full album, the experience is quite rewarding because it just offers a lot. Yeah, great record. Hope to see it on a lot of lists.
Yes,
but we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, we're each going to list 5 more things. This is like EPs, whatever. You go first. 5 things.
Yeah, well, it's not just EPs though, right? It's, I mean, I want to make, what do we even really call this? But it's like a mix of like EPs, like smaller releases that probably are too short to be on year-end lists, but also like just kind of like things that, like records that we're just kind of really happy exist, even if they're not the best 50, right? Something like that.
I don't know.
Okay, just 5 honorable mentions that are just yeah, I don't know. But mine are, 2 of them are EPs. Parts Work, which is the new project from Hopalong's Francis Quinlan. Highly recommended for all Hop Along fans. Sacher's new EP Tendrils, which is the first release in like over 20 years, probably closer to 30 years from the Screamo pioneers, Sacher, and just 3 songs, not going to make an albums list, but incredible music. Slick Rick's Victory, because it has been so long for Slick Rick also, and I think it's almost surprisingly good. It's kind of this year's like LL Cool J album, which last year was kind of the rap album from a like real veteran that was kind of surprisingly awesome. Cardiac's LSD, which is another really long awaited veteran record, also kind of a posthumous, I mean 100% a posthumous release, but it's a mix of music recorded by the band leader Tim Smith before he passed and music completed after his death. Just cool that it exists, a lot better than I expected it to be. And John Gomm's River of Blood, one of the big stories of the year, I think, was Snowing doing their biggest reunion tour since, I mean, they'd reunited on and off, but this is really the first time they kind of got back to touring since they broke up in 2011. And no new music as far as we know at the moment, but singer John Gomm did put out a really quiet, sad, melancholic, folky solo record, and it's awesome. It's honestly one of my favorite things he's ever done, including Snowing. So highly recommend.
All right. My list. Number 1, the Georgia Mac EP, which came out not long before she also released a live Camp Cope album. Collectively, a good year for those of us who miss Camp Cope. Number 2, going to go with the Cure Mixes of a Lost World, which is a great remix album of their great 2024 album. Hoping for some even more news about new Cure coming soon. Number 3 for me is the new Paradise Lost album, which, as Decibel, who has it high on their 2025 list, agrees, is great fan service from the legendary Death Doom band. Number 4, I'm going with Sharon Van Etten's album, Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory, which is the name of the album, but also the name of her new band, because she made this one as a full band, which is not her usual process. And I just wanted to put this one on there as a great one this year that hopefully people remember, came out all the way back in early February. And I'll end my list with the new Benny the Butcher album, because it's now been a few years since every Griselda release felt exciting, but Westside Gunn, Benny, and Conway are still churning out rap that still hits that spot for me. So that's my 5.
I almost had the Cure record too. And also, speaking of Griselda, for records that you want to hear before you make your year-end list, that includes records that aren't out yet. And we just heard that Conway's putting out an album on December 12th. The new single with Rock Marciano just came out. It was really good.
Yeah.
So you also want to, don't miss those. Like, I almost trolled and made my whole list December releases. But on a serious non-trolling note, I mean, that Nas and DJ Premier's record comes out the same day as Conway. And actually December 5th, Red Veil releases Sankofa, which I have heard a few times and I think has a good chance of making my year-end list. Certainly will be on the Brooklyn Vegan Best Rap Albums list. Really, really good. I wish it wasn't coming out in December because it's like, it's going to get overlooked, but maybe it'll, be a Cameron Winter story. Who knows? And on that note, if you have nothing to add, there are new albums out this week. Should we quickly go through them unless you have anything else to say?
Yeah, let's do it.
So another rap record that's really similar, actually, in the same ballpark as Red Veil and Overcast is Mavi's new mixtape, The Pilot, which we're actually recording this on Tuesday because of the holiday. That mixtape just dropped today. So if you're listening on Friday, it's been out for a few days. Plosives, or plosives probably, right? It's like explosives without the X, I would think. It's a supergroup. It's the songwriting partnership of Rob Crow from Pinback and John Reese from Hot Snakes, Drive Like Jehu, Rocket from the Crypt, etc., with Adam Willard on drums. Adam Willard's obviously amazing, been in 100 bands, including Rocket from the Crypt. And then Jordan Clark, aka Mrs. Magician, on bass. It's their second album. I have not heard the whole thing at the time of this recording, but their first record was great. Just like pretty much sounds like Pinback meets Hot Snakes. The new single from this album, same kind of vibe. So going to be awesome. Pink Sifu, who already released one of this year's most creative and interesting rap records with Black Antique, is putting out a companion album this week called Onyx. It features Arm & Hammer, High Tech, Cal Banks, Hudson Mohawk. I haven't heard that one yet either, but again, like expectations are high. Singles are great.
Honestly, the Pink Sifu album, the one that's already out, was I highly considered it for my list of 5. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, it came out so early in the year and it's so interesting. And yeah, same, honestly. Treaty Oak Revival. Speaking of Spotify numbers, are you familiar with Treaty Oak Revival?
I know the name.
Okay, but not like not an immediate, like, of course, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they have over 6 million Spotify monthly listeners.
Right. I know that they're big.
You do? I didn't know they were big.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised, honestly. But they're a Texas country rock band. They're also emo adjacent. They're singers on the new Ben Quad album. They played Warped Tour. They have some emo in their music. But their new album, West Texas Degenerate, is out this week. And I think highly recommended if you're into anything from Lucero to the new Home Is Where emo country album. And it is their first for a major label, and they have crazy Spotify numbers. So they're a lot bigger than I thought. Australian punk legends, The Saints, are releasing Long March Through the Jazz Age, which is the last album that band leader Chris Bailey recorded before passing away in 2022. It's really nice to hear Chris's voice one last time. It's more of like a jangly, melancholic, slower kind of record, which some of the later Saint stuff was. But Chris's voice sounds like almost exactly the same as it did in the late 70s. It's really, really cool. Exide are back with their sophomore record, Bastard Hymns. We talked about Exide a bit on the website. We're always comparing them to bands like Cave In, Snapcase, Quicksand. Those are definitely big influences of theirs. They do it well. And more boom bap revival. There's a new Ural Droog EP, Anything Is Possible. We were supposed to get the Ural Droog and Madlib record in October. That never happened.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we get it soon. But meanwhile, 5 new songs from Droog in the meantime. So always down for more Droog. Like we said, we're recording this on Tuesday. So it's very possible that there are new developments to the week in music that will not be on this episode by the time you're listening on Friday. But before we go, some more news from this week, and I'll start with just rest in peace, Jimmy Cliff. That was really, really sad. I mean, you know, he lived a great long life and had a really, really great long career. But I mean, Jimmy Cliff like helped start ska, reggae, and rocksteady as we know it. He was most famous for The Harder They Come, the film that he was starred in, and also the soundtrack that he like has music on and helped put together. And just like he helped bring reggae to the world. I mean, that film is considered by many to be like kind of one of like the earliest global breakthrough for reggae. And his influence, if you listen to the early ska stuff he did, like, you know, like you just hear it all throughout two-tone and 90s ska punk. And actually, he was, you know, such a big influence on like punk and ska punk too, that came full circle when in 2012, Rancid's Tim Armstrong produced his comeback record Rebirth, which included covers of Rancid's Ruby Soho and the Clash's Guns of Brixton, a song that was inspired by The Harder They Come in the first place. So it's just really cool to see like everything come full circle for Jimmy Cliff. But yeah, rest in peace to a legend, one of the most influential artists of all time. That was really, really sad to see.
Definitely. Rest in peace, Jimmy. And I'll keep going with the news. Guns N' Roses have announced the 2026 World Tour. Zach Bryan announced the 2026 tour, which, more interestingly, has some amazing openers like MJ Lenderman, Dijon, and Alabama Shakes. Tool kicked off their tour this week and have been playing songs they haven't played in decades, some of which we posted on the Brooklyn Vegan Instagram. For those wondering if Oasis will do a new album, Liam Gallagher says, "New music is for wankers." I'm not even trying to do his voice, and adds, "I'm not one of those wankers that need to keep pushing it forward or sideways or backwards. In some cases, nostalgia forever." All right. And if you're looking for music, speaking of music movies, if you're looking for music documentaries to watch this long weekend, head to the Brooklyn Vegan page on Veeps for some recommendations. And Veeps is currently running a holiday special for 50% off an all-access yearly subscription now through December 8th. If you don't know, Veeps is a music movie and live streaming service, which you pay to subscribe. And yeah, so it's like a great deal for the yearly subscription right now. There's a lot of music documentaries on there. We highlighted 10, which you can also, if you can find our article on the site, we talk about those 10 to watch this weekend or anytime. We've also got new exclusive vinyl, as always, at shop.brooklynvegan.com, including the 20th anniversary edition of Darkest Hours, Undoing Ruin, and Bleeding Through's The Truth, plus exclusive variants stuff from Quicksand, Mastodon, Turnstile, Modern Baseball, Coheed and Cambria, Minus the Bear, Alex G, American Football, and lots more. We just marked down a whole bunch of reaction action figures to $10. Go check that out. They're not going to last long. Good stocking stuffers. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. Give us 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and go check out our interviews podcast called BV Interviews as well. And we'll talk to you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at brooklynvegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.